Carrie Fisher had a habit of having small appearances in films that I otherwise have zero interest in, and this is the case with Wonderland, the 2003 film. And I will say, I will preface this review, or I guess discussion is maybe not even an in-depth review because of what I'm about to say. I am not the biggest fan of this kind of film. There's a lot of violence in it, there are guns. When that's done as a maybe police procedural or something like that, I love it. But when it's a drug scene, I just never find it that interesting. So for me, this film wasn't actually that engaging, but I will say that I am not the most knowledgeable person to say whether or not this is worth it, because I haven't seen that many of those kind of films, because it's not my cup of tea. But if you're like me, and you just want to know if it's worth watching, even though it's not your normal kind of thing, I'd say give it a go, but it's not the best thing ever. It's directed by James Cox, written by Cox and Captain Mauzner, which is a brilliant name. And as I said, Carrie Fisher is in this marginally. She's in it quite early on, and after that, there's no sign of her. So that was a bit of a shame, but I liked it when she was in it. The description from IMDb reads as follows. In the police investigation of a brutal crime scene, one man was at the centre of it all, legendary porn star John Holmes. So, Holmes is a character. No, I'm going to have to call him John because I just think of Sherlock. John as a character is very well acted. He's played by Val Kilmer, and the performance is amazing. High intensity, high energy, high emotion. Really fabulous performance. And he, as it said, is at the centre of a crime scene and is kind of told in a really interesting way. Eventually, after it kind of gets going, he ends up being interviewed by the police. And as he's recounting his story to the police, we see the action on screen. It's very, very well edited. I will say, even though as a narrative I wasn't that interested, the film is beautifully edited. There are some really gorgeous shots, particularly when the action is at its highest. So it is well filmed, it is well edited. Just in terms of the narrative itself, because I haven't got too much to compare it on, I can't really comment. But for me personally, wasn't my kind of thing. Lisa Kudrow was in this, which was definitely a pull factor for me. I think she appears about halfway through, and you know, this is peak Friends fame, 2003, probably filmed 2002 or earlier. You know, I liked her in this as well. That was another thing that kind of kept me focused. Otherwise, my attention probably would have wandered a lot more. It's a very bloodthirsty film, which is something I'm not bothered about. I can take that or leave that. But the high level of drugs and gun violence is just something that I wasn't really that bothered about. So it is intense. It's high action. Carrie Fisher is beautiful. It's worth watching if you're into that kind of film, or if there's anything, you know, the cast or anybody who's in it that you really are interested in. And if you want to see a good example of editing, because I do think it was edited very well. It's an 18. It is intense. I'd say give it a go if you're interested. Not my favourite ever film, but I don't regret having seen it.